It started as a peaceful Sunday. Marcus was at the park with his 6-year-old daughter, teaching her how to ride her bike. Her laughter filled the air until a sharp voice cut through it. "Hey, you don't belong here." A white woman stormed over, clutching her dog's leash. "I'm calling the police," she snapped, pointing her phone at him. "You people are always causing trouble." Marcus tried to stay calm, his daughter trembling beside him. "Ma'am, we're just playing," he said softly. But she kept shouting, drawing a crowd, her voice rising with hate. Within minutes, flashing lights filled the park. Officers stepped out, hands already on their holsters. And then a black SUV pulled up, the back door opened. Out stepped his wife, Mayor Renee Carter. Cameras flashed. The crowd froze. "What's going on here?" she asked, voice cold as steel. The woman sputtered. "That man was harassing me." The mayor's gaze shifted to Marcus, then back to her. "That man," she said firmly, "is my husband." Silence fell like thunder. The cops lowered their hands. The Karen's face drained of color. Mayor Carter looked her dead in the eye. "Next time you call the police, make sure it's for something real." As they walked away, hand in hand with their daughter, Marcus whispered, "Sometimes the best response is letting truth speak for itself." A week after the park incident, the video had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments. Mayor's husband racially profiled. The headlines read, "Karen lost her job. Her friends stopped calling. And for the first time, she saw what it felt like to be judged." Still, she told herself she was a victim until the city announced a new community meeting on racial bias hosted by Mayor Renee Carter. When Karen walked into the hall, every camera turned toward her. She froze, because on stage sat Marcus, the same man she screamed at. He looked calm, dignified, while she could barely lift her head. When it was her turn to speak, her voice trembled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Marcus nodded slowly. "Apologies mean nothing," he said, "if change doesn't follow." The room went silent. Then Renee stepped forward. "That's why we invited you here, to learn, not to be destroyed. Growth starts where pride ends." Karen's eyes filled with tears, not because she was shamed, but because they offered her something she never gave them: grace. As the crowd applauded, Marcus took his daughter's hand and walked off the stage, peace finally replacing the pain. Months passed. The world moved on, but Karen couldn't. Every morning she saw that viral video. Every night she replayed her own words. "You people don't belong here." Shame had become her shadow. One afternoon, she walked through that same park, head down, clutching a job application for the city's youth program. She almost turned back until she saw Marcus again, this time coaching a group of kids, including her own son. He looked up and smiled gently. "Need something?" he asked. She swallowed hard. I want to help," she said. "If you'll let me." The air hung heavy, but Marcus nodded. "Then start by listening." Weeks turned into months. Karen volunteered, organized events, and for the first time, she learned what community really meant. One day, during a press event, Mayor Renee spoke to the crowd. Change doesn't start in offices. It starts in hearts. Then she looked directly at Karen. And sometimes, the ones who hurt us the most become the ones who help us heal. The crowd cheered as Karen stood beside Marcus and his daughter, no longer enemies, but proof that grace can rewrite even the ugliest story. A year later, the park was alive again. Children laughing, music playing, a new community center opening under Mayor Renee Carter's name. Karen stood near the stage, now a volunteer leader, handing out flyers with a quiet smile. But then chaos erupted. A man shouted across the field, pointing at Marcus. Why is he in charge? They only put him here cause of his wife. The crowd tensed. Old wounds stirred. Before Marcus could speak, Karen stepped forward, voice sharp and trembling. "Enough," she shouted. "You don't know this man. I used to think like you, until I saw who he really is." The man sneered. "And who's that supposed to be?" Karen took a breath. "A father, a teacher, a man who forgave me when he didn't have to." The silence that followed was heavy, but different this time, full of respect. Marcus walked up beside her, eyes warm. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. She smiled. "Maybe not, but I owed the world the truth." The crowd broke into applause as the mayor took the mic, her voice steady with pride. That's the power of accountability, when one person's courage breaks a cycle. 2 years after that first awful day, the park looked different. Cleaner, brighter, alive with laughter. Marcus stood beside Mayor Renee Carter as they unveiled a new sign. The Unity Garden, a place for all. Cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. And right there, in the front row, sat Karen, now Director of Community Outreach. When they called her to speak, she hesitated, emotions tightening her throat. "I used to see this park as a place that didn't belong to everyone," she said softly. "But that was my blindness, my fear. The people I once judged are the ones who taught me to see." She turned toward Marcus and Renee. "You gave me grace when I gave you pain, and because of that, this place is hope again." The crowd rose in applause, tears glistening in the mayor's eyes. Marcus walked up, shook her hand, and said, "We don't erase the past, we redeem it." The camera panned over the park. Children of every color playing together under the sign that read Unity. And for the first time, Karen smiled without shame, finally free from who she used to be. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that matter. And let's keep the conversation going.